like when we desire that we want to get up early, worship the Lord, do this, that, and the other practice in our life, we'll be doing that, and something will somehow arrange that all these things will be done. But if other desires are maintained, then they may conflict, but whatever desire is strongest will win. So similarly, we've been talking about the yogi leaving one's body. And so it's talking about how to do that and achieve the Labdha state, or the state beyond the material nature, and filled with spiritual bliss. And then there's a actual realm you could go to that exists in that state, in that place, the Vaikuntha worlds. So anyhow, for those of us who develop a desire for these higher transcendental places, then at death, naturally, we'll be hoping and desiring to go there. And actually that's, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that what we desire at the time of death, whatever our consciousness is on, and our consciousness is always on our desires, that will dictate where we're going. So actually everything in this world is geared towards fulfilling everybody's desires. But desires have consequences too. It's not that I desire to be a billionaire, I desire to eat anything I want, I also desire to be free from all diseases, No, your desire has consequences. So if you desire to slap somebody in the face, you also desire to take the consequences of potentially interfering with their desires of not wanting to get slapped in the face. So then there's an intricate web of karma. And so there's consequences to everything, karma. So it's ideal if we can elevate our desires, desire better things in life. So this Krishna consciousness process is transitioning the desire from lower things to the highest thing, which is God. And God has, an ever-increasing set of intricacies which can sweeten the desire more and more and more and more. So you actually have something to desire for eternity in that regard. But in the temporary material world, I'll desire money, I'll desire great sex life, I'll desire lots of entertainment, and family relatives, and expansion of my family and my dynasty. But over time, death, disease, old age comes for it all, and the force of Kala, time, just wipes out all your desires and leaves you feeling miserable if those are still your desires, if you haven't elevated your desires by that time. So the yogi, they're not so mystified by the illusions of this world. They're not so captivated, enchanted by the temporary will-o-wisps. A will-o-wisp is like a flame that I think it has to do with some dry piece of cotton or something, but it falls from a tree, and it might burst in flame really quick. But it's like a quick little wisp of flame, and then it's gone. Or maybe like the light of a lightning bug or something like that. It just comes and it lights, but then it's gone. So our desires in this world are like that. Some sex pleasure comes and then it goes. Some eating pleasure comes and then it goes. Some entertainment comes and then it goes. So anyway, but there is an ever-expanding realm of ever-expanding bliss that's being described. And it sounds much better than the world of just temporary fleeting desires that have to be all be put away at the time of death. So the yogi is desiring this type of thing, and they realize the limitation of the temporary worldly desires. But even though, for instance, I'm married, I have a wife, and we try to practice together. And we have a son now, and our son also is in the beginning stages of engaging in these things. And all those pleasures of the material world that everyone else has to work so hard for, it just also is naturally there. Also, I am also experiencing them. I also experiencing, there's some pleasure in, my wife makes nice food items. There's some pleasure in the process of conceiving children. There's some pleasure in the process of now rearing and raising the children. Even Abhiram's running around giving everyone pleasure here. It's a very cute experience. So you don't even have to, those pleasures automatically come anyway. Even I'm like actively endeavoring not to pursue those pleasures, but they just naturally come anyhow. So, the wise person doesn't make extra endeavors for them because they're automatically here anyhow. So anyhow, what should we really desire? That we'll discuss today. But before we begin, let's chant our pranam mantras. I will share a screen. You can maybe scroll here.
Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama
All right. So let's go back to our study of Bhagavatam. We were talking about the yogi, how they push the life air between the eyebrows and then blocking the 7 outlets of the life air through what's called bandhas, or bondage locks that keep the energies of the body from entering. If you pull it's like the perineum, but like the floor of your anus up, this forms a certain lock that doesn't allow energy to go downwards. If you pull your navel up and in, like the core up and in, this allows, it also can create a lock, especially if you complement it with certain breathing techniques that doesn't allow energy to go down. And so anyway, the yogi, they are pulling their life air up from their heart in between their eyebrow, through their throat, in between their eyebrow, and then ultimately they can direct the life air, which carries the soul, out through the cerebral hole, and puncture the cerebral hole. And this is like the narrow path Jesus talks about back to Godhead. This can be achieved through meditation. So anyway, that's how skilled yogis can die. Now, but if he is completely free from all desires for material enjoyment, he should then reach the cerebral hall and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme. But if one is not free from all desires for material enjoyment, because the cerebral hole is actually a very esoteric place on the body. The body is actually designed kind of be like an energetic portal that can give you access to certain elements of existence. It's like in itself a little universe, you know. Like when we talk about the, Brahma Loka and Satya Loka, Tapa Loka, and so on, you have your own little loka system in your own body. And if you can direct your soul or your consciousness into certain elements of the body, then you can access different types of realms of existence. So anyway, if you can make it all the way to the cerebral hole, which is our goal, which is why we have our shikas here to let that know that's where our goal is, and give up all of our material connections with this world, and includes even family, relatives, desires, all these things. You have to give it up anyway at death, so why wait? Why wait to the last moment? Why don't you choose to die at a time of your you're making a conscious effort in the situation, rather than to just die like unwillingly. So anyway, so like this, a lot of times, do you ever see like a criminal and they're getting chased by the police, but they have some gun? I need you here because they're the only one I'm talking to. And so if they had a gun, and then all of a sudden they realize, that's it, I'm surrounded, I have no option here, and they just turn the gun on themselves. This is not ideal, to get in such a situation. But it's more dignified in their mind than to be bound like an animal and taken to prison, or maybe even killed by the enemy forces, whatever, depending on the circumstances that you're in. So they just turn the gun on themselves. So similarly, why should we wait until the forces of nature surround us and ruin our body and with disease and this, that, and the other, and force us out of this world, when we can direct our own attention to the mystic yoga process, in essence, turn the gun on ourselves at some point, when we're consciously trained at a later stage of life, to be able to die with the utmost dignity and the utmost consciousness and intention. So this is important, how to die. So this section is teaching us all these things. So it taught us how to lift the life air and actually direct the soul out of the body and go to the next destination. Prabhupada has this book, Easy Journey to Other Planets. He's talking about this process. Maybe not so much, because the realms of the body, especially in this third eye region, there's such a wide variety of realms that one can access in here, that you might get lost in the scattered of the material realms that you could say the intelligence chakra makes available for us. But if one is completely pure, you can transcend even that and go to the cerebral hole and then exit and go to the Vaikuntha world. But only the purest of the pure can go through that gateway. That's why even when the Kumaras, they went and approached Vaikuntha, they had to go to different gates to enter. These are some internal gates. Then they had to pass through 7 gates. I don't know if you know, these 7 energy centers, these are the gates to pass into these esoteric realms. At least our localized gates. There may even be more external other gates that consciousness may have to go through. But we have our own localized gates we have to go through of our own body. So the yogi understands these things to some degree. And the Bhagavatam describes them. So now let's continue on with our reading. Yadi prayasyan nripaparameshtyan Vaihayasanam utayad viharam Ashtadipatyam gunasannivaye Sahaiva gacchen manasendriyaischa Yadi. However, prayasyan, maintaining a desire, nirpa, O king, parameshtyam, the governing planet of the material world, Vaihayasanam, of the beings known as Vaihayasas, Uta, it is said, Yat, what is, Viharam, place of enjoyment, Ashta Adipatyam, lording it over with eightfold achievements, Guna Sanivaye, in the world of three modes of nature, Saha, along with, Eva, certainly, Gacha, should go, Manasa, accompanied by the mind, Indriya, and the senses, Cha also. However, O king, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyments, like transference to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, or the achievement of the eightfold perfections, travel in outer space with the Vaihayasas, or a situation in one of the millions of planets, then he has to take away with him the materially molded mind and senses. Meaning all of these things are, all these desires are only going to come from some material consciousness still having a strong imprint on our, our expression of consciousness called the material chitta. But the soul has a transcendental situation, but we can't access it from our diseased or contaminated condition in this world. So, this is the destination if you still have that disease situation, these materially molded mind and senses. Purport. In the upper status of the planetary systems, there are facilities thousands and thousands of times greater for material enjoyments than in the lower planetary systems. The topmost planetary systems consists of planets like Brahmaloka, Dhruvaloka, the pole star, and all of them are situated beyond Maharloka. The inhabitants of those planets are empowered with eightfold achievements of mystic perfection. They do not have to learn and practice the mystic processes of yoga perfection and achieve the power of becoming small like a particle, Anima Siddhi, or lighter than a soft feather, Laghima Siddhi. They do not have to get anything and everything from anywhere and everywhere. Prapti Siddhi, they can just acquire Prapti, you can attain anything that you want. To become heavier than the heaviest, Mahima Siddhi. These are like superpowers. To act freely, even to create something wonderful. Or to annihilate anything at will, Ishitva Siddhi. To control all material elements, Vashitva Siddhi. To possess such power as will never be frustrated in any desire, Prakamya Siddhi. Or to assume any shape or form one may even whimsically desire, Kama Vasayita Siddhi. All these expediences are as common as natural gifts for the inhabitants of those higher planets. They do not require any mechanical help to travel in outer space, and they can move and travel at will from one planet to any other planet within no time. The inhabitants of the earth cannot move even to the nearest planet, except by mechanical vehicles like spacecraft. But the highly talented inhabitants of such higher planets can do everything very easily. So, what's being described here are the different type of existences one could go to. These are like the higher planetary systems where sages and great mystics reside. And just like in our society, we're taught to engage the lower chakras, the more animalistic chakras, especially in Kali Yuga. Maybe we grew up in a family that prioritized the joys of eating. Or maybe some of us grew up in a family that, behind the curtains, the huge emphasis was sex life and things like that. So then we grow up also taking on all those trainings that we received, and then we live life similarly. But the great yogis who've elevated through the chakra system, and they, due to their having a higher refined, you could say, energetic imprint on their consciousness, their chitta, they can access higher worlds. And let's just say they move the consciousness up, but it's not completely pure and they can't pierce the hole, then they'll get lost in one of these higher realms. And we could even in this life, when we access these higher realms, like we're in a society that's actively trying to destroy this psychic principle. Like for instance, in our sink water, they put the chemical, maybe you know it, fluoride. Fluoride is a neurotoxin, and it's meant to calcify your gland that stimulates the third eye chakra. This is called the pineal gland. So that's why all the ancient mystic schools, they have symbolisms of pine cones, because the gland actually looks like a pine cone. But anyway, what used to be a very vibrant gland in the developed conscious being has shriveled to like the size of a raisin in the modern human beings because of these we have bad habits and we don't access it, but also there are certain elements added to our food and water and air supply that are meant to try to stifle the consciousness of we're seen as like the lower personalities in this world. So anyhow, but all of these things can be accessed with this developed consciousness. Even in this life, if you progress in some yoga processes and develop a little bit of the siddhis, these in this chakra, this third eye chakra, because where is Prabhupada saying that they get lost is when they rise the where's the Bhagavatam saying, I should say, and Prabhupada is translating it. They get lost when they push the life air up between the eyebrows. So they're accessing these mystic aspects of life, but there's so much temptation before you can pierce the cerebral. There's so much mystic temptation there that we might all get lost there. So this is why the yogis, they're trying to always elevate. And that's why we try to develop a sattvic lifestyle and sattvic practices and things like that, because this helps elevate the consciousness and access higher realms of the body. But ultimately, unless you can be fully pure in your desires, you'll get lost in this final chakra, this third eye chakra, this mystic chakra, this psychic chakra. And you might get lost in the acquisition of all kinds of siddhis in this life, or if you have desire for that at the end of life, you'll go to a realm where everybody is trained like that. There's like, it's even described in the Bhagavatam, and the Kalki avatar is supposed to appear in one of these cities called Shambhala. Maybe you've heard of it. Yeah, so Shambhala is a place where all of the inhabitants, and Hitler was looking for Shambhala. Many people have been looking for Shambhala for many years, and apparently there's a gate to Shambhala somewhere in Tibet that Hitler and the Nazis were trying to storm. But anyway, you can't come from lower with tanks and lower consciousness, try to access the realm of these higher conscious beings. They're just completely superior to you in every way. They can outsmart you. You can never access them, only by their mercy. So anyway, but we have the desire to try. So that's why Prabhupada, he wrote that book, Easy A Journey to Other Planets. Not to do it the hard way by your own, our little tinfoil creations and things like that, but actually by developing the ability of the consciousness, the yogi can very easily travel to all these places. So anyway, these things are kind of being alluded to and described here, but we can talk about it more. Let's keep reading them. Since a materialist is generally inquisitive to experience what is actually in such planetary systems, he wants to see everything personally. As inquisitive persons tour all over the world to gain direct local experience, the less intelligent transcendentalist similarly desires to have some experience of those planets about which he has heard so many wonderful things. The yogi can, however, easily fulfill his desire by going there with the present materialistic mind and senses. So Prabhupada's saying, you can even right now do it, the yogi. The prime inclination of the materialistic mind is to lord it over the material world, and all the cities mentioned above are features of domination over the world. The devotees of the Lord are not ambitious to dominate a false and temporary phenomenon. On the contrary, a devotee wants to be dominated by the Supreme Predominator, the Lord. A desire to serve the Lord, the Supreme Predominator, is spiritual or transcendental, and one has to attain the purification of the mind and the senses to get admission into the spiritual kingdom. With the materialistic mind, one can reach the best planet in the universe, but no one can enter into the kingdom of God. Senses are called spiritually purified when they are not involved in sense gratification. Senses require engagements, and when the senses are engaged totally in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they have no chance to become contaminated by material infections. So you can purify your senses by not involving them in sense gratification. But the senses will need some engagement. They will not be satisfied by doing nothing. So we have our process of bhakti, is how to use our senses, each in different ways, in a transcendental or a divine way. Like our eyes, instead of trying to find beauty, especially in the opposite sex in this world, which is the most attractive thing to all of us. We try to find beauty in the forms and paintings and the murtis of the Lord. We have processes like arati regularly for this reason. The sense of hearing, we should use our hearing not to try to listen to music that'll soothe our ears or try to give pleasure to the ears, the sense pleasure to the ears. We should try to hear the topics of the Lord, the music that's glorifying the Lord, which also simultaneously will give all the pleasures to the ears. The beautiful deities of the Lord also give pleasure to the eyes, but now it's transcendental. We're engaging it better. To see the devotees, to go and see the devotees, to go and see the holy places. All of these things are purifying. We should smell the flowers offered to the Lord, or the tulsi leaves at the feet of the Lord, which also smell quite delicious, but they're offered to the Lord, they're purified. We should taste the food remnants that we first offer in sacrifice to the Lord, or that has come from the devotee of the Lord. And we should touch the devotees of the Lord and the paraphernalia for worshiping the Lord, and even the Lord's murti form and all these things. So all of our senses can be engaged in this way. It won't be contaminated by material infection. Yes. Yeah, I mean it automatically is there. Yeah. Do you not like smelling are you not gratified when you smell the flowers offered to the Lord? Right? Even this morning I was like, ooh, this one's surprisingly fragrant. Yeah. But it's transcendental, it's offered to the Lord. You not enjoy prasadam? Why does everyone like prasadam? It is giving sense gratification, but it's spiritual sense gratification. It's better, it's superior. So
sometimes there's a misconception that spiritual life means nullifying everything.
Yeah. No, it's not.
The
Spirit, yeah.
Restricting from everything.
No, that's like the Mayavadi stuff, or the Nirvishesha stuff. No, where spiritual life enhances the most sublime variety of gratification, but it's not base, it's not degraded, it's not on the lower selfish consciousness platform. It's much higher actually. So anyway, that's not exactly being described here in the verse, but that is what Prabhupada is describing, and how, because what's being described here is how the materialistic mind can get lost in the higher planetary achievements, or the mystic perfections. And there are people in this world, don't think there aren't. The CIA studies these people if they can get their hands on some of these people. But these people are generally, they're not able to be captured by, the materialistic scientists and all these people of lower consciousness. So they go to the Kumbh Melas and things like that, but you don't know who is who. Prabhupada always told the devotees, be very careful. You don't know. Some of these mystics are hundreds of years old and have incredible powers, treat everyone with the utmost respect here. So, but these But we should know that they must not be a pure devotee, lest they would have unless they're here in pure service. They're like Narada Muni, a transcendentalist coming here to serve, which is possible. But otherwise, there must have been some type of desire, material desire, to even exist at these higher realms. I mean, even we have to be honest with ourselves as we practice bhakti. There will become all the benefits of material sense gratification, liberation, everything will stand there and offer itself to you. And Krishna's going to test you. Like, all right, do you want worldly success or do you really want me? And and at some point he might say, all right, do you want these worldly powers or do you want me? And that's at the last stage. So Krishna's going to test you with everything. And in this life, even I'm seeing now, okay, as I'm going out, when you're poor and have no access, it's very easy to be like, yeah, I give up money, I don't need money, it's nothing, it's garbage. But then when you live like a little bit of a dharmic life for some time, you're trained and you civilized yourself, money will naturally come in this life to some degree. And then, you're going to be tested. All right, you want to choose where the money's flowing more, or do you want to keep going in the bhakti path? And you have to make conscious choices, and you might make the wrong choice and find yourself in a disappointing situation. So that could happen for the yogi. At some point, the mystic perfections are going to be available to the practicing devotee. And what will you choose? Right now we're just happy with some wealth and some other things that come. But actually, or sense gratification. But if we cannot get distracted by that and make even more advancement and raise our consciousness higher, then, the mystic perfections will become available. And then what do you do? It's all these things have to be, sorted out. But in devotion, we can not get distracted. We can transcend them. So like this. Good morning, Alan. So we finished this purport, right? Okay, let's read the next one. Yogeshwaranam gatimahurantar bahistrilokya pavanantaratmanam nakarma bhistang gatimapnuvanti vidya tapo yoga samadhi bhajam. Yoga Ishwaranam, of the great saints and devotees. Gatim, destination. Ahu, it is said. Anta, within. Bahi, without. Trilokya, are the three planetary systems. Pavana Anta, within the air. Atmanam, of the subtle body. Na, never. Karma bhi, by fruit of activities. Tam, that. Gatim, speed. Apnuvanti, achieve. Vidya, devotional service. Tapa, austerities. Yoga, mystic power. Samadhi, knowledge. Bhajam, of those who entertain. The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted, within and beyond the material worlds. The fruitive workers of the gross materialists can never move in such an unrestricted manner. So it says, the materialistic scientists' endeavor to reach other planets by mechanical vehicles is only a futile attempt. This is the point of his easy journey. One can, however, reach heavenly planets by virtuous activities, but one can never expect to go beyond Swarga or Janaloka by such mechanical or materialistic activities, either gross or subtle. The transcendentalists, meaning these higher realms of enjoyment, even in this material world, they're not available to those who are not worthy. You actually have to become worthy to experience higher forms of existence. So you have to practice, high virtuous practices, even in this material world. But now what's to speak of those who are going above the material world to the spiritual world? The transcendentalists who have nothing to do with the gross material body can move anywhere within or beyond the material worlds. Within the material worlds, they move in the planetary systems of the Maharajanas, Tapas, and Satyalokas. And beyond the material worlds, they can move in the Vaikunthas as unrestricted spacemen. Narada Muni is one of the examples of such spacemen, and Durvasa Muni is one of such mystics. By the strength of devotional service, austerities, mystic powers, and transcendental knowledge, everyone can move like Narada Muni or Durvasa Muni. It is said that Durvasa Muni traveled throughout the entirety of material space and part of spiritual space within 1 year only. The speed of the transcendentalists can never be attained by the gross or subtle materialists. Oh, I hear trouble. Oh no. What are you doing?
Just part.
What?
Just part.
Just part today. I don't know. I don't know what's going on otherwise. So anyhow. So
Well, that's jargon.
Prabhupada's describing a little bit about the ability of the transcendentalists. And actually, the transcendentalists, they carry all of the powers and, that the lower forms of existence, you could say the lower chakras give anyhow. But now but because they've achieved the supreme purity, they have no need to try to exploit them. And so like Narada Muni is such a personality, and he can go anywhere at will. He can access all those mystic powers. He can do anything he really wants within the material and the spiritual world. So Prabhupada's describing him. Durvasa Muni, I don't think is of the same caliber as Narada Muni, but even Durvasa Muni was able to go and visit Vishnu in this world as well. So he also had similar ability. So anyhow, but he was still also able to make an offense. Even Narada Muni, there's a few pastimes where he, didn't act in the absolute highest level of purity in that moment. So they still, even though they are transcendentalists, there may be some scope where they're not. They're able to be bewildered. Any jiva is able to be bewildered by the Lord's energy if he so desires, like Arjuna getting bewildered in Bhagavad Gita and so on. So anyway, this is a short purport. We can definitely do one more. And then maybe we'll just talk, because I know you had some questions anyway. What the heck's that about? You just wanted to push. What are you doing? What are you doing? You crazy? Alright. Vaishwanarang yati vihaya sagata Sushumaya brahma patena shochisha Viduta kalko taharerudasta Prayati chakrang nipas shayashumadam Vaishwanaram, the controlling deity of fire. Yati goes, Vihayasa, by the path in the sky, the Milky Way. Gata, by passing over. Do you guys realize that, right? Like in ancient cultures, everyone could see the Milky Way. Like you would just every night you could just go out, because there wasn't light pollution. You could just go out and you could see this glorious phenomena of just natural existence. That's why they kind of like, maybe there's a conspiracy to cover it, because everyone would believe in something wonderful if they just went outside and looked in the natural sky. Like I've never seen the Milky Way. I've never in my whole life I've never been anywhere where there wasn't enough light pollution to not see the Milky Way, to see the Milky Way. But in ancient cultures, everyone knew about it.
You can barely see the stars.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, you're lucky if you see a few constellations now. But everyone at one point could see the Milky Way, and that's amazing. So this is being described here. Gata, by passing over. Sushumnaya, by the Sushumna. This is the channel of energy that connects to all of your chakras. And this is the the astral pathway that your life air or soul can move to go to the next chakra. So it's called the Sushumna. So anyway, Brahma Loka, Pathena, on the way to, Shochisha, illuminating, Viduta, being washed off, Kalka, dirt, Atha, thereafter, Hare, of Lord Hari, Udasta, upwards, Prayati, does reach, Chakram, circle, Nirpa, O king, Shaishumaram, named Shishumar. This is the astrological dolphin. That's described that all of the constellations together are called the Shishumar. So anyway, O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Shishumna to reach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, he goes first to Vaishwanara, the planet of the deity of fire, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contaminations, and thereafter he still goes higher to the circle of Shishumar to relate with Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. So he's talking about some of these higher planets before you leave this material world. Okay, I'm going to put down that. Okay? The polar star of the universe and the circle thereof is called the Shishumar circle. And there in the local residential planet of the personality of Godhead, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, is situated. Before reaching there, the mystic passes over the Milky Way to reach Brahmaloka. And while going there, he first reaches Vaishwanara Loka, where the demigod controls fire. On Vaishwanara Loka, the yogi becomes completely cleansed of all dirty sins acquired while in contact with the material world. The Milky Way in the sky is indicated herein as the way leading to Brahmaloka, the highest planet of the universe. So it's being described some of these higher realms and the purifying process of going there, and also by going there you reach further purification and may be eligible for even further higher realms. So anyway, we're going to totally end there because, one, we're down on some people. Two, you want to just read one more because there's no purport. Tad Vishwanabhing Tvativartya Vishnu Ani Yasavira Jainatmana Naikaha Vira Jainatmanaikaha Namaskritang Brahma Vidang Mupaiti Kalpa Yusho Yad Vibudharamante Tat, that, Vishwanabhim, navel of the universal personality of Godhead. Two, but, Ativartya, crossing over, Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. Aniyasa, due to mystic perfection. Virajena, by the purified. Atmana, by the living entity. Eka, alone. Namaskritam, worshipable. Brahmavidam, by those who are transcendently situated. Upayiti, reaches. Kalpa Ayushaha, a period of 4,300,000,000 solar years. Yat, the place. Vibudha, self-realized souls. Ramante, do enjoy. The Shishumar is the pivot for the turning of the complete universe. This is like the North Star, the pole star. And it is called the navel of Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu. The yogi alone goes beyond the circle of Shishumar and attains the planet Maharloka, where purified saints like Brigu enjoy a duration of life of 4.3 billion solar years. Okay. This planet is worshipable even for the saints who are transcendently situated. So, there are realms far, far above. We shouldn't think we're so foolish, and that the people in this realm, who are actually quite demonic, who rule this realm, they're not so impressive. And these the beings that live on these higher realms have quite an impressive existence. Maybe even angelic in nature. So anyway, we'll end here. We talked about many things today. We'll do a little kirtan from here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Okay. Hare Krishna, thanks for joining online, and we can learn more